I would like to go back to the MTA, and I would like to ask you to kind of more broadly explain your views on congestion pricing and whether or not you've spoken with the governor or anyone from the state about a congestion pricing plan, and what things would you need to see in a congestion pricing plan to support it?
I've had numerous conversations with the governor on this topic, both before this proposal came out and since. I've been consistent about that lockbox point. It's the single greatest concern I have right now. Previously, I would have said that the older proposals we saw related to congestion pricing immediately put particular demands on the people of Brooklyn and Queens, which is a clear majority of New Yorkers. It's 5 million people almost, without any guarantees in return of investment in the mass transit needs of the people of Brooklyn and Queens. This new plan is a step forward because by taking the bridges out of the equation, it does a better job of addressing that central concern. We still don't see answers on some of the hardship issues I've raised, which I think are legitimate. You will know from your district, which I have the honor of living in, that there are plenty of people who are not well off, who have reasons they have to go into the core of Manhattan for medical appointments and other matters. We need to think about how we handle that. But the biggest issue right now for me is the guarantee, and a legally binding guarantee, that any money derived from a congestion pricing system would be spent on subways and buses in New York City. I think you'll understand my concern that we've seen money in the past move away from its intended purpose. If government is not obligated to keep that money focused on the needs of the MTA and the people in New York City, I fear the money might be used for other purposes. So that's what I would argue we all need to work on together, and we're ready to work closely with this legislature to figure out something that would be fair. That's the most central concern. There's also a host of details. We don't actually have a full proposal or a full piece of legislation.
I mean, I think we can agree that, yes, we don't have the exact details, but the broad strokes of some form of congestion zone south of 60th Street, and if you cross the East River Bridges and don't access either the West Side Highway or the FDR Drive, that you would pay a fee, and then for-hire vehicles would have an additional surcharge in that zone, at least during major business hours, Monday through Friday, and possibly on weekends. That is the general broad strokes of that plan. And do you support those broad strokes? And I think just taking into account that, you know, Comptroller DiNapoli in November of 2017 put out a report that said the 2020-2024 capital plan of the MTA will most likely see a larger shortfall than the 2015-2019 capital plan, which was over $15 billion. So we could see a possible, and considering that still that capital plan has a $7 billion shortfall, we could see upwards of a $20 billion shortfall. We need a direct revenue stream. And would you support those broad strokes of 60th Street coming into the central business district, excluding if you get onto the FDR or West Side Highway?
A couple things, and I will answer your specific question, but just an important frame. I still believe the single most effective and equitable approach to raising the resources we need for the long-term MTA is the millionaire's tax. I don't, respectfully, and you're the experts, you're the people who do the ultimate voting, but I don't buy the conventional wisdom of what is viable here in Albany and what's not viable. I'm going by what I think is the best outcome. It's the most progressive form of taxation. It's obviously renewable. I think the fair fare is a really important idea in terms of ensuring that lower-income New Yorkers can get around and get access to opportunity. So I still think it's the single best way to address the problem. If you say to me, okay, let's look at congestion pricing models, this model is the best I've seen to date, and I think that's progress. I'm much more comfortable with it than I was with the previous proposals. I have not seen enough detail to be fully comfortable because the devil really is in the details. The broad strokes, if you have a limited zone and if you do not include the bridges, that certainly makes some sense to me. I think the notion of the for-hire vehicles being treated equally is crucial. taxis and all other forms of for-hire vehicles being equally responsible for producing some of the revenue for the MTA, and setting that at the right dollar figure is crucial. But you will understand that I'm not, on behalf of 8.5 million people, I'm not going to buy into a plan until it's fully articulated with all of the ramifications, and until I see that the money will be devoted, legally binding fashion will be devoted to the subways and buses in New York City. So my answer is clearly a step in the right direction. I'm ready to sit at the table with anyone and see if we could work together to get it to be something we could all agree on. But I want to be careful about those details.